as the Ondo State gubernatorial election scheduled for November 16, 2024 draws near. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has unequivocally assured the public of the Nigeria Police Force's unwavering readiness to ensure a peaceful and orderly election process across all 18 local government areas, 203 wards, and 3,933 polling units in the state. In making good of his assurance, the Inspector General has banned the Western Nigeria Security Network, codenamed Amotekun and Vigilante Corps, from participating in the November 16 governorship election in Ondo State. The ban directive was contained in a statement on Sunday by the first spokesman, Muyiwa Adejobi. He said the Inspector General ordered the deployment of officers from various specialized units, including the Special Intervention Squad, Police Mobile Unit, Counter-Terrorism Unit, Special Protection Unit, Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit, and K9 Unit, among others. The police boss also ordered that area patrols be conducted with police helicopters, while gunboats will patrol the state's waterways and riverine areas to ensure security across all terrains. Joining us now on this show as we review the latest security decision on Ondo State election, which holds this weekend on Saturday, is Mike Ejiofor, former DSS director. He will be joined by Kabiru Adamu, a security expert. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I understand we have Mr. Mike Ejiofor. Thank you for joining us. Well, in Ondo State, 18 political parties going to the polls next Saturday. The Inspector General of Police, as he told us in Bayelsa, in Imo, in Edo, says that they are ready. Now, but he also says, through the spokesman of the police, that Western Security Network, also known as Amotekun, we have no role to play in this election. Well, each time we have these by-elections, they look like massive deployment of security agents, from police to DSS, even to civil defense and the military. Do you think that the security agencies, speaking generally, are prepared for the election in Ondo State? And will INEC be able to defend its integrity in Ondo State? Security and INEC integrity. Two big questions there.
Yeah. Thank you once again for having me. As my memory can carry me, I don't think I've seen the Amotekun getting involved in elections. And I cross-checked this morning and confirmed that they've not been involved in any conduct of elections. But I also believe that the Inspector General of Police has his reasons for saying, maybe he has intelligence that they want to get involved, and emphasize that they have no rules to play in this forthcoming election of 16th November. Having said that, I think this also, the measure, the directive, gives reassurance both to the citizens and the participating political parties. I only hope and pray that they will go strictly by the rules in enforcing and ensuring that security is maintained. You also recall that the INEC, in its peace signing accord, had assured Ondo citizens that they are also going to improve on what happened in Edo. That is indirectly admitting that they didn't live up to expectation in the Edo election. So I hope and also pray that they will go and play by the rules, ensure that the conduct of the election is free, fair, and credible.
Well, I understand that we have Dr. Kabiru Adamu now. Dr. Adamu, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
My pleasure, Dr. Abati. Good morning.
Dr. Adamu, you were with me on This Day Live yesterday evening. Now you are back on the studio. Shows how much valued you are by Arise News. But today we're discussing Ondo State. What's your assessment of the level of security preparedness in Ondo State ahead of the elections taking place on Saturday? Particularly now that the Inspector General of Police has said, well, Amotekun, Western Security Network, keep off. But we know that, there will be other security agencies on duty. What's your reading of the situation?
Thank you. I think it's important to give the context of the security situation in Ondo State. My company, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, did an analysis, and within the context of the Southwest, we discovered that for security incidents, when you collate all the security incidents that have been occurring over the last 4 years or thereabout, Ondo State is at the 4th position within the 6 states that are in the Southwest. Now, the same thing for fatalities. Ondo State is also in the 4th position. However, when it comes to abduction, Ondo State is in the 2nd position within the Southwest. In other words, the level of abduction in Ondo State is much more higher than at least 4 other states within the region. Then we now also try to identify the threat factors. Who are those behind both the fatalities and then the incidents? And we were able to identify terror groups, unfortunately, who cross from places like Kogi State and to an extent Edo State into Ondo State. We all remember the unfortunate attack in the church in Owo a couple of years ago. And of course, investigation showed that that particular group from Kogi State. There are, of course, also incidents where we've seen the movement of these threat elements from places like Edo State into Ondo State. Then there are also local criminal gangs that exist in Ondo State that perpetrate criminal activities. There are also cult groups, these various cult groups that exist in Nigeria. They are also active and present within Ondo State. Then you also have the militant components that are agitating in one way or the other over foil or petroleum issues that are also active in the state, that are also elements of this environment that I've just described, as well as the security forces who play their role. Now, it is within this context that the election is going to hold. In other words, there are threat elements that can threaten the election. Now, add to this mix the itinerant herdsmen that have also been armed herdsmen who have also been active in Ondo State that have threatened the peace of the state in the past. Of course, we were all familiar that the reason why Amotekun was established, as it were, was principally to support the federal security agencies to establish peace within the state. Now, of course, the Inspector General of Police has come out to say quasi-security structures will be banned during the elections. And he's right. Within the Electoral Act and our national laws, state security structures are not recognized. I think it is a lacuna, a constitutional lacuna, in the sense that state assemblies have passed laws in support of the creation of these security structures, but then the federal laws do not recognize them. And now you have a federal official banning them. So I guess constitutional lawyers will have to interpret this. It happened during the 2023 elections, both the presidential, governorship, and then the federal legislature and state legislature elections. Those state structures were also banned. Recently, too, in the Edo State elections, as you are probably aware, Edo State too has a state security structure. And then the Inspector General of Police banned that structure before the elections. And if we look at the provisions of the Electoral Act, Section 29, subsection 3, Section 29, subsection 4, and then Section 25, subsection 1, and a few other sections within
Thank you, Dr.
Act.
Adamu.
It empowers the police and the other federal
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving that robust analysis, especially with regards to threat level. I'd like to come back to Mr. Ejiofor with regards to this conversation around threat level, because when we speak of elections and those that have a tendency to have incidents of security threats, Rivers State is always at the very top of the list. Now, we all saw what happened at the last Rivers State local government election without police presence, which caused many people to ask what is actually possible with the absence of police from our elections, because that outing was described as many as remarkable, extremely peaceful, without police. So, Mr. Ejiofor, is there still a role for police in Nigerian elections, or can we actually evolve from this culture where there's heavy police presence? Because we've seen that even in the absence of police, in fact, the absence of police led to one of the most peaceful elections we've seen in Rivers State.
Yeah, before I go into that, I must thank Mr. Adamu for giving a general overview on the threat level in Ondo State. But you also agree with me that the threat level, yes, he has highlighted the threat level. Some of them are also not related to the elections. And you also agree with me that prior to the establishment of Amotekun, the threat level was much, much higher, because the Amotekun now moves into the forest, look at all these elements that he has highlighted and try to check them. They have never been involved in elections, but I also agree with him that the IG has every constitutional right to ban them from partaking in the election, just like in other states that have witnessed the election. Now, coming to the election, you see, these two elections are two different things entirely. State elections are not conducted, but figures are written. So in Rivers State, you would have seen that it's peaceful because elections are not conducted in the states, the state local government election. But in the federal election, you see there seems to be that kind of credibility or neutrality on part of the electoral body to see that a credible. That's not to say that the election is perfect, but these two elections are two different things entirely that should not be compared, with the federal election, that the gubernatorial election that is conducted by INEC and that one conducted by state independent electoral commission.
Okay.
Two different ballgames entirely.
Real quickly, sir. The question I want to ask you is this, Oga Co, like I love to call you. Why is it that in every election cycle, we announce 30,000, 40,000 police officers, but the elections are still marred with a lot of irregularities as regards police conduct? That's just the question. And Mr. Kabir Adamu, that question is for you. Why? Despite the heavy presence, helicopters and everything, they're still marred with a lot of irregularities, and the people begin to lose hope in the police and say, oh, something was amiss somewhere.
Okay, I think that was Rufai.
Yes, sir.
A pleasure to meet
you.
Yes,
sir. Let Mr. Mike go ahead first. Let Mr. Mike go ahead first, and you take that question afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, you see, the problem is that the umpires of the election, people don't seem to have confidence in the umpires, even the security agencies. So if you deploy 24,000, 34,000, they will still do what they want to do. Politicians, they are not out there to serve the people, but to serve their interests. So they do everything possible to manipulate the process in their own favor. And unfortunately, the security agencies too, at times, take side with them, especially when you have an incumbency factor, and becomes a problem. You can see what happened in Edo, the fight between APC and PDP. Despite the deployment of police, people were not even allowed, from what we saw, to go into the collation center to collect the exact result. And that's what has brought problems. The the way we should go is that we should not only sanitize our electoral process to ensure that our votes not only count, but it is credible and fair to every other person. Look at the American election, for instance. The winner, the loser came out openly to say he has accepted the outcome. But can we do that enough? We cannot, because the process is faulted. There's no amount of policemen that you can deploy that can make a difference.
Okay. Dr. Kabiru, Adamu.
Yeah, so in my view, the principal instrument that we use in providing security during elections is the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, which is an ad hoc body that was set up by INEC to support the provisioning of security during elections. The two chairpersons of that committee is the Inspector General of Police and the Office of the National Security Advisor, of course with INEC supporting the rule. So ahead of every elections, including the one that we're discussing, Ondo, an assessment is conducted. And I think to answer your question, the major reason is that the assessment is usually faulty. It does not necessarily use data and intelligence to identify the threat elements and then the risk exposure associated with the elections. A lot of research, a lot of study has been conducted to support the provisioning of security during elections. And so when you conduct an assessment, and that assessment is not scientific, it does not identify threat factors in a scientific manner, it does not identify the risk exposure, and this risk exposure are spread across at least 4 spectrums: social, economic, environmental, and then security itself. Imagine holding an elections in our current economic circumstances with the cost of living crisis that Nigeria is going through. How easy will it be to incentivize the electorate? So in the assessment, issues like this would need to be identified. And there are about 25 or 24 members in ICSES, which is the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. Now, if that assessment is conducted in a scientific manner, and then roles and responsibilities are given to each of these 24 or 25 members of ICSES, and then at the end of every assignment, a monitoring and evaluation process is conducted to identify gaps and mistakes that were conducted, that occurred during the elections, so that in subsequent elections, the lessons from the previous ones will be corrected. Unfortunately, most of these things are not being done, and even where they are not being done effectively and efficiently. And I think that is the answer to your question. We are not learning from our mistakes because we do not have processes in place to allow us to learn from our mistakes so that we can correct in future elections.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Adamu, and thank you, Mr. Mike Ejiofor. We look forward to Ondo State election on November 16, and we hope that both the security agencies and INEC will pass the test of integrity. Thank you very much.